So, welcome, Aisha.
G'day, Karen. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've been watching all the great stuff you do, and it's I don't know. I think it needs to be spoken about, and I think we need to, acknowledge. Well, I'll just get straight to the guts of it. There's a lot of domestic violence around, and Gippsland is one of the worst, and there's a lot of government. Support here and there, but it's not enough and it's not slowing down. And the stuff that you're doing quietly in the background is changing lives. So I think it's really important that we have a chat about that and see what you've been doing and see there's some way other people can get on board as well, because I think it's a well, I'm going to make some statements. I always make statements in my podcast, and
Love
people
it.
either agree or
Love
not agree. But I actually think it's the
it.
responsibility of the whole bloody community, to
Yes, yes. I
get on
have to
board.
agree with you there. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
absolutely. And
so
this work that you and I have been talking about that I do actually is it has come to a bit of a position where you mentioned Gippsland has got the highest they actually got the highest unemployment rate in the state as well. So
wow.
if you couple that with domestic violence stats, which is the highest as well, we're in a pretty bad way at the moment. So the
Yeah.
program that I've been talking to you about, and yes, I've sort of been quietly ticking over in the background.
Mm.
Look, it's been a couple of years in the making, and it's been trialled and tested, and it's really aimed. The program has been aimed at. Now, it's not women that are actually in crisis. Now, I've spoken quite openly about this. There is a plethora of support for women that are in crisis.
Mm.
And I was one of those women. That's where the passion has come from, obviously, which we can talk about shortly. But the issue for me was that where's the gateway to come and get back into society to thriving again?
Mm.
That didn't exist. So my program called the Confidence Blueprint really is the link between being in crisis and being, in back into community and in the workplace and so on and so forth.
Mm.
The issue has been that you mentioned about funding. Now, I was fortunate enough in 2023 to apply for a limited tender, and I got that. And there was a lot of help locally with that, which, I'm very thankful for, some key stakeholders. And that program was, as it was named then, was called the Believes Program. And it was for vulnerable women in Maui. And these women were unemployed, and they went through a selection process to see if it was suitable, etc., for them. And look, we had phenomenal results from that. The department started to recognise it in some of their trainings themselves. They spoke about it. It was very successful. So we had 9 women completed the program out of 11. Now I kept at 11 because I had to drive the minibus. I always told them they had to put their helmets on because I'm but that's why it was kept at 11. Everyone always asks you that, but so anyway, we had nine completed, and then out of those 9, we had 4 get employment almost straight away. Some pretty hard work, and then one lady, if I may be indulge her story, I love telling this story. She came to the information session and had a listen and was very like, the whole what is she going to talk to us about?
Yeah.
Anyway, talk to them about what the program is about. Now she transitioned through the program. She would spend up to 14 hours a day at home online gaming.
Oh,
She
wow.
had no social outlet. She had no connections. She was really stuck. And the
Mm.
kids, she had special needs. She had a lot. And as a result of the program and as she transitioned through, she's now barely games at all. She's out and about. She hikes. She's got
Wow.
more productive relationships with her kids. She even did the fast track program through uni.
Wow.
Amazing. Like she said, oh, I couldn't believe it. Someone like me that's that sort of narrative. So she's really kicked on and has really embraced the learnings of the program. So anyway, so that because that was so successful, 2024 rolls around and there was an opportunity for an open tender, which is Australia-wide, and that's really, really hard to get.
Yeah.
But these were for men, this was for men. So the department were really curious to know, I wonder what sort of results would happen if we had it for men. So I did 4 programs for men in 2024. And then the final program for women, which was outside the parameters of the tender, was in November last year.
Yeah.
Then look, we beat up a bit on the department, but they were great to the government should say the department were being wonderful in terms of putting funding forward to test the program. But now we've got all these women and men too wanting to participate, but
Funding's
there's no
dried up.
funding. Yep.
Yeah, isn't that? Yeah, that's really. Well, just off the track, but just to say that, I used to run a program for people with disabilities to move into independent living. And the department promised, that would be ongoing. They'd be supported. Blah blah blah. And we moved out a stack of people into independent living, and then the department bloody
Yeah.
pulled funding. And it's
Yeah.
like it's nobody now. They're sort of out and about, and they're sure they got support stuff, but they didn't have that coordinator, watching anymore, or just sort of keeping tabs. So I think this is a big problem with the government. I don't want to bag the shit out of the government, because there are like the kickstart funding that you were doing and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But I think that every time they change government, they
Yeah.
drop the ball, and
Yeah, I agree.
it'd be good if you could get funding for this, or if it could come from some kind of local source, or philanthropy, or I don't
Yes.
know, a big business like, and I shouldn't, I don't know, a big power station, or there was some kind of
Yeah.
big entity that said, this is bloody valuable, and where domestic violence or similar issues, mental
Yeah.
health issues are causing costly for us, even with our workers. So if we
Bang
invested
on
in
there.
some of this,
Yep.
we so let's keep that in mind. Let's come back to that later. But I
Yeah.
just want to talk about when you did actually, there's a lot of things I want to talk about. I love
Go
it.
for it.
When you with the men's program, I'm
Yep.
so curious about all of it. So let's just start. I'll just fire away as I think.
Go for it. Love it. Yep.
The men's program, were these men that were at risk of contributing to domestic violence, or were they men with mental health issues that were struggling to get their lives on track, or what sort of?
Yeah, great question. So where the guys came from, the precursor to all this was that the guys had to be linked with an employment service provider, and my partner with the tender was Salvation Army Employment Plus,
Yeah,
who, by the way, were amazing to work with.
yeah,
Now, the guys, again, they went through an interview process, information session, and it was a two-way street where I was very transparent with them and expected the same back. So if there was any sort of reservation in terms of, I don't know,
mm,
that was a bit of a flag. So that was I needed to say that there was actually a process to make sure that we got the right people that would benefit
yeah,
for the program first. In terms of what they brought to the table, look, a plethora of issues. Guys that have got mental health issues, guys that have, there was one or two guys that have been in jail and have come out, addiction issues, long-term unemployed, relationships with family strained. There's a whole range of things that were going on. Now, as I made it very clear to them, I couldn't give a continental what's going on with you. That's none of my business at all. What is my business is whether or not A, you're willing to commit to 100% to the program, and B, you need to be, transparent and et cetera, et cetera. So even though the results are, now when we talk about results, I get a bit shitty, I suppose. I shouldn't say that, but I do. I get a bit narky because results and tend to be, categories, KPIs, etc. In our line of work that you and I do, it's more about, okay, well, transformation, commitment, vulnerability, growth, etc. That then transpires into those measurable outcomes. These guys, I needed to get these guys to the starting line. A lot of them weren't even at the starting line.
Yeah.
How do we do that? We need to, look at who they are internally. What's their level of self-esteem like? What do they believe to be true about themselves? And that's the beauty of the work that this program does. It really drills down into core. And I'm a firm believer that even if you do, like, it's almost a reverse marketing where you help men build them up, obviously that the effect of that is going to be positive. And I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw that with their relationships and that sort of stuff, and the
Yes.
way, yeah.
I had one guy that was he'd been in jail, and he decided to commit to the program, and he was just like a sponge. And at the end of the program, when he got his certificate, his partner and his mum came along, and he was that proud to show that he through the program, here's my certificate. And they spoke to me about the difference that they'd seen in the way that he communicates with the family, the way he's stepping up, that sort of thing. I mean, it's amazing. In 4 weeks, you hear those sort of comments, that it's making that level of impact.
I love that. And you're so, well, I just want to go, no, I'm going to say this first. Because when you're talking about getting them to the starting line with their belief system and the narratives and all that kind of stuff. So just who you are, like you've been working with people, you're teaching personal growth for 25 years. So it's not, and you're empowerment coach, mindset strategist, NLP training, DISC training. You've got all that kind of stuff. So you it's not just teaching a theory-based program. It's about understanding the human being, and understanding the deepness of them. And I think that's what that gets missed in a lot of the, what can I say, the pencil pushing ideas that come out. Sometimes it's kind of like, well, the measurements and KPIs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we actually have to get a person to a functioning point, where they can actually function and re-engage their cognitive, their complex thinking, so that they can, because a lot of these programs are based on the, outcomes that need complex thinking. And if they're not they're not there yet, they're still in survival mode or still in emotional reaction mode, they're not going to actually be at a measurable point, other than, well, are they not reacting anymore or whatever. So you've got all this. No, go on, you're going to say something.
I was just going to jump in there. You bang on with what you're saying, and bringing lived experience and being able to relate to people on a very personal level. And I do have that ability to do that. I bring that to the table, and I recognise where people are at. And the one thing I will say with the men, and look, full credit to them as well, I acknowledged a lot of what they'd been through. And I said, you know what? And I just called it straight out. There are a lot of toxic women out there. You've had a bloody tough time. The law is weighted against you. And I just called it straight out, and it was like, oh, hang on a minute. Someone's actually, yes, you need validating. Some of you need validating. You've had a bloody tough time. So that was the starting point in terms of building a link and credibility with the blokes. And then, because you don't even think about teaching this stuff without that foundation first.
And that connection. So, So I 100% agree with you about the reverse marketing kind of thing. Like it's and I get mixed feelings about this, and I still, I call stuff out that probably people don't like. But man bashing, while I can't stand, it definitely, there is more men committing violence against women. That's 100%. That's
We know that.
the truth.
We know that.
But and then some men get offended. Well, not all men like that. And then other people say, yeah, but if you're not all like that, you should be standing up. There's so much like attacking everybody, from
I know.
all over the place. And I don't condone any form of domestic violence. I don't give a fuck who's doing it.
I
It's
agree.
not freaking okay. But it
Yep.
is worse for a male of stronger physical stature to beat up on a
Yes.
woman. That's incredibly cowardly. But to be man bashing and sort of say, alienating them and to be blaming them, pointing the finger at
I
all.
can't stand it. Cannot
No,
stand it.
I don't like it either because I think that I understand it. I understand why we've become so passionate about it and so angry about it. And I do understand that, like, because it's not fucking on. It's just not on.
Yeah.
But we've got to bring men to the table rather than alienating them because look at that, all this
Yep.
Andrew Tate shit, and
Oh God, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
because we've been men bashing, and it's kind of like, well, let's
Yes.
let's go divided and let's go sides. And it doesn't bloody work. But anyway, so
Yeah.
thank you for doing it. Thank you for because it, let's go back to your story in a second. Like you were a victim of domestic violence, and so your passion is now, helping vulnerable
Oh,
people to get back on their feet. And you could have said, I'm not fucking working with men. They're, like I've been through
yeah,
this
could easily. Easily.
triggering and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me, before we talk about your story,
Yep.
how how do you do that? Because some people couldn't. Like, how do you sit there and work with men that could be triggering to remind you of your story, to make you.
Yeah. It's a great point that you bring up, and I think it comes back down to you. It's me. It's the growth. It's the investment in me that I've
Mm,
done. And
mm,
my approach is that I've worked very hard in the sense that, uh, again, working on me, but that when I bring a level of love, I bring a level of love to everybody.
yep,
So
yep.
I will love you first before I will do anything else. And if
Oh
you
my,
just,
yes, yes, that's how I work, Aisha. That
yeah, you're the same as me. Yeah.
I,
I'd be high
it's
fiving you right
yep,
now.
yep,
Yeah. Look, and if you don't want to accept that, that's okay.
yep,
But we'll part ways. And that's the
yep,
importance of that pre-interview stuff.
yep,
So that when you get into the program with me, you already have a level of expectation. You're going to step up, you're going to commit because I'm there to support you and help you as much as I can.
mm, mm,
Now, in terms of triggering, I think again, it's about, well, this person's an individual. This person is not that person, is not that person, is not that person.
yep, yep,
Then I don't have the right to bring that forward onto that person.
yep,
They're an individual in their own right. We're all wanting care, we're all wanting love, we're all wanting connection. And I will give that to you. But if you don't want to take it, well, that's okay. This program's not for you.
yep,
That's
yep.
my approach.
I love that. Yeah, 100% agree with you. I go in, all my training is and exactly that. I love every
Yeah.
person in the room. And people say, how can you? Because
Yep.
some people are pricks. But you know what? It's about loving the soul of my soul loves that person's soul.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you can't not love another person's soul,
Yep.
on a soul level. And I also have a capacity, which I'm sure you do too, is seeing the child in every
Yeah.
single person. There's a little kid sitting there. That
That's right. I
has,
talk about all of that. Yep.
has grown
Yep.
up the way they've grown up because of their experiences, the belief system that's
Yes.
formed around this child, and then we grow up functional or dysfunctional or both or
Yep.
a mixture of bloody everything and, all sorts
Yeah,
of.
that's it.
I
That's
love
it.
that. So I love that, and I love that you're saying separate the behavior from the person as well, and separate
Correct.
individuals because um, I do know quite a few people that I would say are paralyzed, that are not living because certain people or certain behaviors trigger memories or trigger emotions based on
Yeah.
another person. And
And that's an easy thing to do.
yeah,
I guess, in essence, that's what you see.
Mm.
Instantly you see the behaviour. So it takes another layer to step back and say, oh, hang on a minute, that person is not their behaviour. They've
Yeah.
learned how to cope or to function to a certain level through various experiences, and this is a result. But if we continue to judge by what we see, then we're not going to get that human connection. We're not going to get growth. We're not going to get compassion, et cetera, et cetera. So
Mm.
it'll still be always at an arm's distance.
Which that's perfectly natural to do, and I understand it, but that's exactly why we need some kind of training, like some kind of
Yeah,
even if it's not, even if it's just a reflective kind process type training, so that we've got
yeah,
the space, the safe space around us. We're held in a space where we can actually ask some questions and start to question our beliefs, and
yeah,
not punish our beliefs. I think this is another thing, that bullshit,
correct.
that's bullshit. It's like, no, well, why do we feel that? And I understand completely why I feel that, but is it serving? Is it hindering? And
That's right. You've just really hit on actually a very important part of the program.
mm,
I've part of the program is a visual model, and the belief system is up the top because that's where our minds are. But unpacking what those look like, and a lot of us aren't even aware what those are
mm, mm,
until you start delving a bit deeper into it and bringing that level of curiosity instead of judgment. It's like, oh shit, how come I? No, hang on. Let's just be curious about this.
yeah,
I wonder why
yeah,
instead of how come.
yeah.
Yeah,
Agree, and I think we've got, like, I do a lot of work with, all leadership does, above the line, below the line, that kind
oh
of stuff,
yeah, that's in the
and
program. Yeah,
there's a lot of people who get ashamed, um, feel guilty, beat themselves up, punish, sit in perfectionism,
yeah,
and they put a mask on and pretend they're always above the line. That's bullshit. None
yeah.
of us are always
That's
above the
exhausting.
line. It is exhausting, and it's
It's
not real.
exhausting.
It's not real
No,
because every one of us is a human. We all have emotions, and there are going to be triggers where it doesn't. You don't care how bloody zen you are. I don't care how many caves you've sat in India. You are. There is going to be. There are going to be triggers in your life where you react to or something, and you're going to go
yeah,
below the line, and that's
yep,
okay. But it's how long do you
yes,
stay below the line? How long do you question why you're below the line?
bang
Do
on. Yep,
you go, fuck, what can I learn from this? And
yeah,
next time I still won't punish myself, but next time I'll be
yes,
quicker to recognize it, quicker to move from it. And this is human growth, that we are not perfect, and we don't, if only we could embrace more vulnerability, take the mask off and say, I fucked up. And that's too bad. And that's
yeah,
okay. Everyone fucks up. I'm sorry. And
yeah.
I'm
And
learning
I,
to get better at that. That's
I
okay.
think too, with that too, Karen, you've hit a point in terms of that vulnerability when they take that off. Now, when you're talking about, now I'll talk about the program in terms of the specifics of these people that are exceedingly vulnerable.
Mm,
Let's look at, blokes that have been, lost their jobs, have been retrenched. They've been
mm,
unemployed for a long time. Now, you've got women that have been in transition or, domestic violence or whatever issues are going on, have ended up on unemployment benefits for a very short time. And then they've created they're existing. So they've created habits where they're just falling over the line every day.
yep,
Now, if they're not given the opportunity to learn all these things that we're talking about, belief system, separating behaviours, language, all of this plethora of things that we can bring to the table to change our lives, how are they expected to do that?
I
Now, and
agree.
I'll get on my soapbox for a second because
Yep.
I feel for the employment consultants. Now, the employment consultants they're the front line.
Mm,
They're supposed to not only find them a job, they then deal with all their emotions. People might be suffering from homelessness, they might be at risk. There's all these different things that are going on.
yeah.
Now, they don't get training in anything.
Yeah.
And this program, which you understand how specialised it is apparently supposed to fall under a level of service for the employment service providers. I don't understand how. They don't understand it themselves,
Mm.
but that's bureaucratic nonsense. So I guess what it comes down to is in terms of the program, it's a 4-week program. It's 3 days a week. It's building work fitness. So I've staggered it like deliberately, or how I did stagger it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 to 2:30, so that parents, kids
Yeah.
can pick up their children. But again, that work fitness is really important because a lot of them aren't used to it having oh, shoes, I've got to get up and I've got to go to a course for the day,
Mm.
for 3 days a week. So it was a nice balance there. And then I really do it like an inside out approach. It's beliefs, it's language patterns, it's their vision for the future, it's above and below the line, all the coaching stuff that comes into it. And then on top of that, we do a disc workshop.
Mm.
We do an inner critic workshop. I've taken to TAFE, Totally Workwear, where they pick out clothing.
Yeah.
I have guest speakers, support services. I have so much, and an accredited component in there as well. But the package that they get, they would not normally get access to this
Yeah. Yeah.
because they don't have the money.
Yeah.
And the employment services doesn't offer it, of course, because it's a specialist program.
Mm.
So if we don't offer people that are vulnerable, people that don't have the opportunity to be in training, to be in a coaching program, etc., how are we meant to change the narrative?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So, um, go back to sometimes it's. I want to go back to your personal situation
Yeah,
because I think that's a connector. I think that
yeah,
you can share that story with people and they know that you've been there because there's no one wants a bureaucrat, who's got a
yeah, yeah,
certificate telling them what to do,
yeah,
if they don't have some level of understanding, and that's why you're the perfect person to be working with these vulnerable people. You have been on the podcast before and we've had a very deep conversation about your past. And I'm going to take a punt. It was about, I'm going to say about number 50 or somewhere like that. Like it was right back in 2021 or something like
yeah. It
2020.
was a
I
long
don't know.
time ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. If you go
uh,
back and if you're enjoying this conversation, go back and have a listen. We'll get a little snapshot from Aisha now about what her past was. But in that episode, we dug very, very deep into all the nooks and crannies of that terrible, terrible time. But give us a snapshot of what your
yeah. So
story is.
I've put it up on the website too. But it's from suitcases to passion or whatever I've framed it up as. Basically, 2018, I got off the train to stay with a girlfriend here with a couple of suitcases in hand. I'd fled domestic violence and or domestic abuse, more the point. And anyway, so I was also recovering from major surgery.
Mm,
So I'd been in major surgery for over 8 hours. So it was a pretty tough time.
mm,
And I didn't know anyone. Anyway, she decided she wanted to go off and get married. So that I can remember I grabbed the phone and I'm Googling on my phone, homelessness Morwell. So then I walked into community housing in Morwell and I just said to her, look, I need help. I've got nowhere to go. So I ended up in a share house in Morwell, which was a bit hectic. I'll say stop. And then well, she's make sure my door's locked. And then I ended up because I was I guess my character was, obviously a good character. I was asked to go over to Elgin to the share house there. No one was there. It was a massive place, 9-bedroom place, and I was there on my own. And
wow.
then later some other people came. But look, the issue was that I didn't have money. All my money had been wiped out.
Mm,
No superannuation. That went. And that was, look, my daughter and I needed money ASAP. So I was just and then the savings got drained. So I'm literally like, how am I going to get enough money to get, okay, I've got to get a bond. I've got nothing. I've got nothing. So I literally started building my business, my life, from a share house with no resources, kept asking the question, I will find a way. What else can I do? What else? What else? Who else? Who could? And it was those constant things to find the answer. And I'm still here. This is my one bedroom palace. And I have built it, and I built it from nothing. So I bought the spoons, I bought the towels, I bought the furniture, etc., and I built a business. Now, I didn't know anyone in Terrelgan, but I can remember I went up to the neighbourhood house and I walked in there, and that was when things really changed, and that was back then. And from there, I've just been on this trajectory.
I think so. And now, just so, because you said you're still here, but you're not in the share house anymore. You're actually in your own unit
Yes,
in Morwell.
I love it.
I love that you
Not the
love
share house, no.
it. So when you like, this is an issue because you've been through this. So when a lot of these women, are fleeing domestic violence or fleeing a
Yeah.
situation, which a lot can't too, which is a terrible situation. But we, you kind of, there must be this uh, feeling of being invisible, a feeling
Oh,
of,
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Good point about all of that. So when I'd
mm,
actually just fled, and I was in Queensland, so I'm from Victoria. I don't know anybody up there.
mm,
So he'd actually, my contacts were just
yeah,
like nobody. I actually rang his ex-wife.
yeah,
He said, get the F out, and rah, like went right off the tree. And I rang her and I said, I don't know what to do. I don't even know who to ring up here. And she came and got me, and I got into Queensland domestic violence, whatever they call it, I can't think of it. Oh, Bengal Foundation. I'm going to give them a plug. Amazing. Yasmin Khan, what she did for me was next level. Now I got into motel and did all of these, the stopgap sort of stuff. But after the crisis sort of situation is over, and yes, you're on your own, and yes, you're feeling vulnerable and you're feeling isolated and so forth. But when I came down here to Gippsland, and I came in a share house and so forth, I had already started the process of working on me. And thankfully, I had a bit of I had my teaching background,
mm,
and I'd already started my coaching journey at that stage.
mm,
And women are giving, I've been in the situation myself. There was no program there when I was in the domestic violence. I was in the Salvation Army one up there and some other ones, but there's no programs
mm,
that actually help you to build your confidence up, to build your self-esteem, your own identity. And I was astounded.
mm,
So, okay, I've got this support while I'm in crisis. That's great. I can feel safe. I've got a roof over my head. I can get routine sort of happening. But when it's time to sort of transition on, I was like, well, who is there to help me? What is there? And there was just nothing.
mm,
There was nothing. And I had knocked on a couple of, and I won't name them, but I've knocked on a couple of major organisations' doors and said, can you help me? And this was down here. And I got turned away because apparently I couldn't prove that I'd experienced domestic violence at the time.
wow,
And I was given a $20 food voucher.
wow,
Yeah, I was
mm,
well, right.
mm,
Which could have really crippled someone, but for me it was really that was more motivating. So that's where the drive, through all these experiences came to create the confidence blueprint, because there was nothing for women, particularly in regional areas,
mm,
to access that would help them to get back out in the community and working and studying and educating themselves, etc. But I've spoken to women late about this work, and they said, "Oh God, I'd love to have done that. I had my baby and I was da 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 da, or I've left, corporate and I don't know what I want to do." And so we've got this whole invisible cohort out there, as well as the people we've been talking about, that would benefit immensely from something like this, but it's just not here.
Mm. I don't understand that. I don't understand why the ball gets dropped, because like like it would save the my brain. I
Yeah,
don't know if my brain's right or not. It just makes sense to me that if you, because I'm not in that space. So I often make shit up in my head. I just do this, crunch the numbers and go, that doesn't make
let me make let
sense.
me make it easy for you. One person earns around about 25 grand. Let's make it round figures. 25K per year on job seeker. Now you put 10 people a year. How much is that?
Yeah.
25K each,
250, yeah. Yeah.
right? For the cost of them to go through the program, one person's, well, round about nearly one person's wage,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a no-brainer. Like, you've hit it straight on the head when you said about saving money.
Well, it makes sense, but it's not even just the cost of the program. It's the future. So, it's just
Correct.
that because right now that's the program, and that's saving them 90%, by just doing that. But then there's also the who do they the ripple effect. Because like
Yes,
now I've got a job, so therefore the unemployment is, I'm not paying that job seeker thing. But also now I'm not teaching my kids, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but I'm not role modeling to my kids that we sit on the
yep,
couch and we don't get a job because no one wants us. We're
yes,
actually role modeling change, and we're role modeling
yep,
contribution, and but then there's also their kids going to school, and they're not getting in fights because they're hungry. Like there's so much
it's huge amount. You're spot on.
and then there's
Yep,
crime. Like there's at the
yep,
ultimate end of
yep,
um, this ripple effect is crime or domestic violence or murder. Do you, like
yeah,
which is
exactly.
exceptionally costly to society. So while I'm not in that space, and I don't profess to be an expert in it, and I don't have all the figures like you're saying, but it is so clear to me that it's so
Yes,
costly to
yes,
have people sitting in this space of nothingness, as
yep,
opposed to a little bit of investment to create one hell of an impact.
correct. You're right, because we've all been focused on the end and fixing. We've seen the government's crop down on this and rah 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 rah, which is here.
Mm,
But you're right, because where's the investment here? This is the work that needs to be done.
yeah,
And it's
but
not just
the-
my program, but there are
yeah,
programs out there that I know that there's a great youth one, for
yeah.
example. Fantastic work that's being done. But yes, here, this is the work that needs to be done in order to stop this from even being an issue.
It's very hard to show KPIs and return on investment unless you're going to follow a person and follow a perceived trajectory. If this
Yeah,
person stays out, they could have ended out like this, or if they do it, they might end up like that. It's a gamble, but it's proven over and over and over. Then when people get the support, and when people start to question their beliefs, and when people start to have more self-awareness, and they have more
yeah.
self-reflective moments, they improve. And I don't mean they become a better person, because I'm not measuring a person how I'm not
No,
measuring. It's they improve,
no.
their outcomes improve, their well-being improves, and that their
And that's it.
choices improve.
All of that interconnectedness, and what I'm about to say, I've asked permission to, but there's a couple of ladies that went through the last program. Now, Jade, she was stuck at home. She was suffering anxiety and depression, often stayed in her pajamas all day, watched
Mm.
Netflix, etc., and then would send the kids out to do most of the jobs because she was, really, really, suffering terribly. And I can remember when she came along and I met her in the car park and she was shaking and I just gave her a cuddle. I hadn't met her before, anyway, she's transitioned through the program. She said it's just changed her life
Yeah.
immensely. She always wanted to do traffic management. And I got
Good
a
on her.
photo. Yeah, she said, I've done it to do with people then.
But,
So I got a photo the other day, and here she is. She's all geared up. She's got a stop sign. She said, I've just finished my training and I'm going off to do work placement. I
oh,
mean, and she's talked about the ripple effect on the kids. She's got improved relationship with her kids. Um, the son is doing so much better with the relationship. There's just been so many benefits
yeah,
because of Jade's, commitment to the program. And then, if I may share just one more,
yeah.
it brings me so much joy just when I hear these stories. I actually shared it, I think, on Facebook. I did too on Facebook and LinkedIn. And there's a photo of Lauren, and she's top of a lookout. And it was her first day. Now, when we went to TAFE and we did bit of a tour, we went past the horticulture section. And she pricked up here, she loves nature. Now, Lauren is now enrolled and has started studying. She wants to do forest management, conservation land management.
Fantastic.
And she had her first, yeah, that was the photo that was taken was her first outing on for the program, the course,
Ah,
yeah.
how
And she said
fantastic.
she felt like she found a purpose. So,
Well, meaning and purpose
yeah,
are so damn important. And when you're like feeling like you're invisible and isolated and there's nothing to live for, and I've somehow
yeah,
got to manage these kids that I can't even take care of myself, let alone
yeah,
how the hell are you going to have any pride or have any
yeah,
feel like you've got any sense of meaning or purpose? And it doesn't take much to give people a sense of meaning and purpose. Do just like you're saying, 4 weeks. Do like
yeah.
and the
It's opening the
difference
door, isn't it? It's
it
opening the
is.
door of opportunity, and
Yeah,
this is what can be created. And these are the people and organisations that are going to support you along your journey. When you finish the program, off you go. So
yeah,
you're setting people up to succeed.
yeah,
That's the joy in it.
yeah,
And really sort of saying, okay, if you do take all of this and you learn it and you implement it and you do something with it, it will change your life. And that's been, the theme with the people that have done that are now succeeding.
mm,
I want to share one more if I may.
yeah,
One of the
yeah.
blokes, yeah, one of the blokes, he was been unemployed for 14 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
And he did the program and is now he's been doing some trainings like getting his tickets
Good on
or
him.
yeah, forklift and so forth. But the biggest ripple effect for him was the reconnection with his son. They are now living together. They're renting a
Wow,
house together, and they have not been connected for I don't know. I don't know how many years he said, but a lot of years. And they're
wow,
really, yeah, they're now connecting together, working on the cars together, etc. So
wow.
huge.
But even that connection, that sense of connection, particularly with someone important,
Yeah,
that brings you more passion and drive,
does.
to it gives your life meaning. It makes you want to get up and makes you
Yep.
want to contribute
You can
more. And
see whenever I talk about it, it
yeah,
brings
and
me so much joy. Seeing people thriving and, and really loving life because what could be better than from that? I mean,
nothing,
there's just
nothing.
nothing better.
And
No,
I
you
just
get
love you
it.
using the word joy. I just love the word joy. Joy,
So do I,
joy, joy. It's the bee's knees, that word,
isn't
joy.
it? Yep.
Yes, it is.
Bring a level of joy and fun to all that you do and watch how things change.
Yep, 100%. Sure, I love this. And I just want to, there's one thing I want to say before we go. You were saying that when you came out of that situation, you keep
Yeah,
saying, you kept asking, what else can I do? What else can I
yeah,
do? Who else can I talk to?
yep,
I wonder, and I don't have an answer. I'm just, it's curiosity is spikes me
mm,
with all this. What makes a person so what is it about you? I'm not asking this. I mean, I am asking, but I'm so there's about three questions here.
so,
What is it about you that
yep,
makes you curious and ask the questions? And then there are people who are not asking the questions. And is it possible for them to become question askers? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I'm so
There's a lot
curious
wrapped
about
in
that
there.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if I go back to that space, I knew deep down, hidden within me somewhere, that I was worth more. And I
Yeah.
was damn
Yeah.
determined and damn well driven to turn things around. I would not be defined by my circumstances. That's just not who I am. So it
Wow.
was
Yeah.
like that was my drive. And I think when you talk about those specific moments with people when you're working with them, it suddenly becomes, well, shit, if she can do it, so can I.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe,
Whereas if it's up here, you might be doing a wonderful speech and
yeah.
you might like pockets of things that are landing, but when you're dealing with 10 people in a room connected, that specific situations, it's very relatable, it
Mm,
becomes attainable.
mm,
Now, not
yeah.
everybody, though, I must say, not everyone's
Mm,
going to say the level of questioning and drive that I had. I felt it was linked to my purpose. I felt, that I had a higher calling.
yeah. Yeah.
If I'm being completely transparent, which I'm always like that anyway, but I sort of, yeah, I think that part of my passion was purpose.
Mm,
It's showing people that you can do this too.
mm,
And I'm not expecting people to do the level that I did. I mean, I've done it from absolutely nothing.
mm.
But bringing awareness to people, I think, is the key. And then step by step by step. So it doesn't sound like or appear like it's too much for them to
Yeah.
handle.
And completely unattainable. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah. I'm so it's not a question I needed you to,
No, I know.
have, and it's just something that I always wonder about that,
Yeah,
what is it in individuals, and is it driven by nature or nurture, and is it a or by adversity, where we
I think
become
it's
more
all
curious, yeah,
combination of that.
it's
Yeah,
it's fascinating. Human
it
being
is.
is bloody fascinating, and there is no
Yep,
right or wrong. It's because nobody can tell us our reality. Like, our reality is our reality because it's
that's
ours,
right.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's what we decide it will be because and even just saying that, that's I bring that level of awareness to them because they don't realise.
mm,
But they think that something happens and that's the outcome. They don't realize, oh, hang on, something happens, I've got a choice
yeah,
to then affect what happens here,
yeah.
whereas before it was just
Yeah, but and I 100% agree with you, but this is why your program's important, because while you're functioning on survival, 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 survival,
yeah,
there is not a chance in hell that you ever are gifted that safe space to
yeah,
breathe,
yep,
to think, to
I
even,
agree.
and that is why your program is so needed for people in this. They're still in crisis, even though they're not in crisis. They're still in crisis because they're still in
Yes,
survival bloody mode. And it's
that's it.
like
They're in self-crisis, really, isn't it?
yeah, and it's so, if without you, you or others like you, or whatever, without someone supporting
Yeah,
it's like putting a stop in the wheel. It's just like saying
yep,
pause,
yep,
down, put a lid on that jar, And we're
Yeah,
just going to
that's it.
open up a new jar and we're going to sit here and look at the new contents and
That's it.
then we can choose which jar we want, and you can't make,
And
you can't,
that's you. Oh, I love what you just said too, because I was saying to them, look, you are more than happy. You can go and pick your problems up at the door,
yep,
right? Do what you like, not a problem at all. But you leave them there when you come in here,
yep,
and you're right. Let's explore this jar for
yep,
today.
yep. I
Let's
love it.
focus on that. Yeah,
Well, I love it, and unfortunately, I don't get to dictate whether you get funding, but it's absolutely critical for society, and particularly for Gippsland and Latrobe Valley,
yeah,
because we do have such a crisis, and let's call it for what it is. It's fucking atrocious. It is a
yeah,
shitful place, and it's shameful that we should be recognised as Australia's worst and not have enough, uh, well, government or whatever
yeah.
support, not enough people care to
I
go,
used to scream
what
at
are
the
we going
bloody
to do?
radio. I used to scream at the radio. I remember it's so clear. I'm driving along down here at K Street, going through the roundabout, hear this thing on the radio, but on ABC. It's a few years ago now, and this woman's talking about, oh, we need this program to help da 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 da, and I'm screaming at the radio. I've got the program. Let me let me do it. I was screaming at the radio. And you're right. If we don't do something to change the landscape down here, we're just going our unemployment rate's going to keep going up. Domestic abuse rates, yes, will go up. But not only that, it's the silent people, the ones that
Yep,
don't go on the radar, so to speak,
yep.
that will continue to, and it's intergenerational.
And that's the
It's
key.
yes,
That's the bit, because the ripple effect, people can say, well, like me, I can say, well, this doesn't affect me. I'm not in a domestic violence situation. But I care. But there are people who are not in that situation who don't give a fuck. It's because it doesn't
yeah,
affect me. But in actual
yep,
fact, it does freaking
it
affect you
does.
because it's innocent people that get caught up in the violence or caught up in the criminal activity. Do you know
Yep,
that their kids end up on drugs because of somebody who's ended up
yep,
having to deal drugs because that's the only way they can survive. And now they're
yep,
selling it to kids at school, which could be my kids. Do you know? And
that's
there,
right.
at the end of the day, none of us are isolated enough that we are not part of this community. Do you know, like one problem affecting one problem actually does ripple out to impact all of us, even if we can't see the direct line of
Yes,
consequence. Do you know,
yep.
it is fact, and so we need to just get a bloody grip on that. On this podcast, I can't just send this to the government and say you should fund Aisha. That can't happen. But if there is anybody listening to this and you are connected to the government in any way, or that you've got can pull any strings,
Yeah,
or that you are working in a bigger organisation that has this kind of funding, has access to it, or that you can help apply for any funding. I don't know if there's anything. If you're touched by this conversation at all, and there's anything you can do, please do it, because it affects everybody. And I remember when Gippsland and Latrobe Valley was a thriving bloody
yeah,
metropolis. I don't know what you bloody call it, but
yeah, yeah,
it was great. We didn't have these problems, and wouldn't it be great if we could get back on our feet again? And we've had some terrible shit. We've had the timber mills,
yeah, yep.
the
I agree.
power stations, all sorts of stuff have contributed to this, and we're not the shithole of the end of the earth. This is a
You know,
bloody
it'd be nice.
amazing, huh?
Yeah, and you know, it would be nice. It would be nice to restore my faith too, because having getting turned away from those organisations, it would be lovely to someone to turn around and say, you know what? Yes, let's get reinvest in this program. That means reinvesting in Asia so she can start thriving even more.
Mm,
Because if I've got more resources, I've got more to give too.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's about looking after one another. I'm like we're invested in this community.
yeah,
We want what's best for this community. You are so invested too, and I love it. But we need to work together. It's about, lifting one another up.
yeah.
It really is about lifting one another up. And if you've got the resources to do that, well, why not do it?
100%. I just had an idea too. People can say, well, I just had a thought, not an idea, because an idea sounds like I've got a solution, but I don't. But what is, when you just said about investing in you, because there may be people thinking, well, if you two are so bloody passionate about this, go do it for free. But that's not the solution, and
Yeah.
you can't do that. And this is about you, not me, but I'm just saying in case I get
Yeah.
dragged into it. You've got to put food on your table.
Yes.
You've worked for 25 years to develop a set of skills that are life-changing to others, and people deserve to make a living from this. People deserve to be paid
Correct.
for the good work they do, because assholes get
Don't
paid.
forget I got wiped out. I got wiped out. So
Yeah,
every money
exactly.
I've earned has had to buy me a car. I've had to go and buy a car. I've had to buy the furniture. I've had to reinvest that money into it. So it
Yeah.
would be lovely to, yeah, I need a hand up too.
Well, there's
Yes.
a lot of assholes out there that get that. Nobody has a problem with them earning a lot of money when they're ripping everybody off and selling drugs to people, and Christ knows why. So the good people who are actually doing good things also deserve to get paid. But anyway, let's get off that
That's it.
wagon. If anybody listening can help, please do, because it's a phenomenal program. It supports the entire community. So, Aisha, where can people find you to get in touch with you
Yep. So
and follow you?
obviously my website is aishaalim.com.
Yeah,
But yeah, Facebook, LinkedIn's, send me a message on LinkedIn.
yeah,
I love getting a personal message. And I'd love to have a conversation with someone
yeah.
about this and how they can help because, you know, I'd love them to be part of the solution too.
Yeah, I'll put all those links in the show notes. But when you say you'd love to have a conversation, please, if you only want to, if you don't even know that you can help, but you just think you want to say something that might be helpful, just do that, because you're under no
Yeah,
obligation to kick in $25,000. It's just who might know somebody, who might have a contact, who might suggest something like conversations find
yep,
solutions. So
yep. Sponsor a spot. I call it on the website, sponsor a spot. You
that's a
know,
good idea. Yeah,
yes, sponsor a spot. And that's, I mean, the link is still being, I haven't got it set up yet for payments, but it'll link back to me. But
yeah,
the sponsor a spot is basically, the idea that there may be someone out there that wants to give someone a seat at the table in my
yeah,
program.
yeah.
So sponsor a spot.
Well, that's well worth connecting with you on LinkedIn and having that conversation
Yeah.
about. So, yeah. Aisha, thank
Thanks so much,
you.
Karen.
Oh, thank you for
I've
joining us.
just loved this. I could have talked all day, but I know we're on a podcast, but you're very similar to me, and I just love your energy. I love you. I love the joy that you bring and the
Thank you.
passion. I've enjoyed listening to your other podcasts, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about the confidence blueprint.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I absolutely love what you do. So all that lovely love reciprocated back to you, because I just love what you do, and thank you so much for caring so much
Yeah,
about the community. So,
good
all
on
right,
you.
well, thank you very
Karen?
much, and fingers crossed.
Yeah, thanks
All
very
right,
much.
chat
Okay,
soon. See ya.
see ya.
Ta-da. See
Bye.
ya.